Hi guys, and welcome back to Beauty Fortified. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sue, and today I'm going to be talking about 8 tips to younger looking makeup. So these are little tips and techniques that might help you to de-age your makeup. If you are doing some things that might be aging you, if you're making a few mistakes with your makeup, I thought that I would put together this video just to help you look at different ways that you can do things. So obviously on this side of my face, I have got makeup that is quite aging, and I've replicated this on this side of my face using exactly the same makeup in most instances, but just applying it slightly differently with different placement and a different technique. So if you'd like to see how I got this look, then keep on watching. So a little bit about my skin. I'm 50 years old. I've got fine lines, wrinkles, enlarged pores, and I also have normal combination skin. So we're going to start off with foundation, and the secret to foundation is to keep it sheer and flawless. Now, because I've got normal combination skin, one of my default foundations is the Estee Lauder Double Wear. So I'm going to apply that today, but I do mix it with a tiny drop of the Estee Lauder Advanced Night Repair, and this is just to sheer it out slightly because it is quite a full coverage foundation. You can also use squalane oil, or you can use a facial oil. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of that onto the back of my hand, and then I'm just going to drop in the smallest amount of the Advanced Night Repair, and it's actually just a little drop like that, and I find that this really just helps to sheer out the makeup. I'm going to mix the two together on the back of my hand, and then I'm just going to gently dot this all over my face. And by diluting the foundation, I don't need to worry about it looking cakey. And I have done a video on how to apply the Estee Lauder Double Wear if you are concerned, that it is quite full coverage and you are concerned that it is going to be quite cakey. So you can apply it with a sponge, your fingers, or a brush, and today I'm going in with a brush. The next trick is setting powder, and it's to go easy on the setting powder. Now, because I have got normal combination skin, I do get quite oily throughout the day in my T-zone, my forehead, and my chin. So I'm using a very light setting powder at the moment. This is the Catrice Poreless Perfection Powder. I also use the Rimmel Stay Matte, which I absolutely love. And I just take a little bit of that on a big fluffy brush, and I just dot it in the areas where I do tend to get a little bit oily throughout the day. So I'm not going to put a full coverage of this over my whole face, just those areas that do tend to get a little bit oily, because you don't want to add to the foundation. You don't want to add too much cakiness to the foundation. So my advice is just to apply your setting powder quite sparingly. And now onto concealer. One of the areas that you need to consider is your under eye area, and we need to keep it as light and as bright as we possibly can, because with age you will see a little bit of discoloration, some fine lines, wrinkles, a little bit of darkness. And the one that I go to, absolutely love this one, it's the Maybeline Age Rewind, and I am in the shade Nude number 2, and I will link all the products down below. And I find that this is a really great one because it doesn't cake into my fine lines and wrinkles, and it just gives enough coverage to brighten up the under eye area. So I'm just putting a little bit of that on, and I'm just going to gently blend that in with my finger, and just to make sure that it is patted in and that it's blended out smoothly. So really do like this one for the under eye area. So the next thing to consider are your brows. Now, you don't want to use anything that is too dark for your brows, because you're going to end up with brows that look quite harsh. So you can see on this side, I've used quite a dark pencil. You need to look for something that's going to emphasize your brows, something with an ashy color to it, and something that's also going to complement your skin tone and your hair color. So I find that this shade is a little bit too dark on me, and also I've drawn them in rather thin, so it gives quite a hard look to the face. So on this side, I'm going to be going in with an Essence brow pencil. This is in the shade blonde. And before I do that, I'm going to brush up my brows with an eyebrow spoolie. And this is just to create a little bit of volume to get them looking fluffy and also to get them pointing in the same direction. You can also use a little bit of brow gel, of course. And then I'm going to take the pencil and I'm just going to lightly fill in any gaps that I have and just give the brows a little bit more definition, and you want them to look quite full as well. And now onto the eyes. So you want to keep your eye makeup light and polished with no heavy under eye liner on the lower lash line, because that will create the effect or the illusion that your eyes are actually smaller than they are. So we want to create a nice fresh wide-eyed effect. So I'm going to be using exactly the same shadows that I used on this eye, but I'm just going to apply them slightly differently. So first of all, because I have got slightly hooded eyes, I'm going to be going onto the upper lid and into the crease with a very neutral brown shadow. And the one that I'm using is from MAC, and that is in the shade Sandstone. And it is a lovely matte shade. So it's perfect for just giving my lid a little bit more definition. So I'm taking a little bit of this on a MAC 217 brush, just lightly. I'm going to tap off the excess, and then I'm going to go in to my crease and I'm just going to gently pat that on. We don't need to worry too much about the blending at this stage, but blending is a very important part of this. So once I've applied the color and I'm fairly happy with where it is, I'm then going to take a very fluffy eye brush and I'm going to use this just to blend out the eyeshadow. So you can see on this side, I really haven't blended it at all, and it kind of ends up in quite a defined line, and that can be quite aging. So you just need to take a brush and just very gently blend out that color, almost so that it fades away to nothing. If you don't have hooded lids, you probably don't really need to worry about a color that's going to define your crease. But you might still want to put a little bit of a neutral base down. But just something, this is a very neutral, unobtrusive color, and the trick is just to blend it out as much as possible. And that can be quite difficult in aging lids, because I find that as my lids age, they're obviously less taut, which makes the blending a little bit fraught. And, you know, I do have a little bit of dryness on the lids as well. So it's also down to the products that you use. You know, some crease shadows blend better than others, but I think this is probably the best I'm going to get out of this one. So I'm fairly happy with that. Now onto the lid. So I'm using a color, this is a MAC shade and it's called Sable, and this is a sort of hybrid. It's a cross between a satin and a metallic, I would say, but it's not shimmery, metallic or glittery. So I'm going to take a lid brush, a flat lid brush, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of this to the lid. And this also really just helps to open up the eye because it is a light color. So I'm gently putting a wash of that all over the lid. This is a really lovely go-to, and it's really, you can use it, you can wear it every day. It's not hugely shimmery, it just adds a little bit of interest to the upper lid. And now I'm going to go on to the lower lash line. Now you can see on this side I have lined my lower lash line with a black, and it really is quite harsh and it tends to close up the eye. I've also applied it to the upper lid. I've applied it 2/3 across the upper lid. So we're going to use something that's a lot lighter that is going to open up the eye. So I'm going in with an eyeshadow pencil brush, and I'm going to take the original shade that I used in my crease, and I'm just going to dab a little bit of that onto the pencil brush, and then I'm gently going to use that just to define the lower lid. So this will just give you the illusion of shadow under your eye as opposed to any harsh line which is going to make the eye look smaller. And then if you wanted to go a step further, you could take the lid shade, which again is the MAC Sable. That's the one with a tiny bit of shimmer. And you could apply a little bit of that over the lower lash line as well. And I'm going to do that just to add a little hint of something more under the lash line. But the idea is to keep the lower lash line quite neutral with no harsh lines. Now I am wanting a little bit more definition on the eye, so I am going to go in with a black shade, and this is from a Wet n Wild palette, and the shade I'm using is the top one over there, and I'm just going to use a tiny bit of that because I do want a little bit more definition on my upper lid. You can see on this side I have taken that color 2/3 across my lid, and what it's done is it's just made my eye look quite a lot smaller. So taking the same pencil brush, I'm going to dip it into that shadow, and I'm just going to gently pat it onto the outer corner of the eye. I wouldn't even say the outer third, it's more like the outer corner. And that's just to give a little bit more definition to the eye. If you were going for a purely day look, you wouldn't even need to do this, but it just adds a little bit of something to the eye. So that's the eyes done. They're neutral and they look quite polished. I'm now going to apply 2 coats of mascara, and today I'm going in with my Nyx On The Rise. And now onto one of my favorite subjects, and that is the subject of blush. So the idea with blush is to keep it as high as possible because we want to create the illusion of the face being lifted. Now you can see on this side where I've applied the blush, I've come down really low. I mean, I've come down here to my marionette line. So it really is quite low, and it gives the illusion that my face is being pulled down. So using the same blush, and today it's the Milan, and this is in the shade Rose DÓro. So it's a beautiful peachy shade. I'm going to be using the same shade, but I'm going to apply the blush slightly differently. And to apply the blush, you need to start from your iris out. So you don't want to bring the blush too far in towards your nose. You want to keep it away from your nose, but you also want to keep it onto the apples of your cheeks as well. So taking a brush like that, you want the majority of the color to be on this side of the face. So I'm going in, this is a blush brush from Smashbox, and I'm just taking a little bit of the blush, and I'm just going to start over here, and I'm just gently going to pat it in. And I personally can't say that with blush less is more, because I do enjoy blush, and I think that at the end of the day it's really down to the placement, so you don't need to be too concerned if you are a blush lover like I am. But I'm just keeping it on the outer 2/3 of the cheek. And if you wanted to, you could use a cream blush. I have done a whole video on cream blush, and cream blush is particularly flattering for mature skin. It just kind of melds with the skin. It doesn't sit on top of the skin, and you can really get away with a lot more with cream blush. But today we're using a powder. So I'm keeping it very, very high. I'm going right up onto the cheekbone just to create the illusion of lift. So you can see what a difference the placement of the blusher has made to my face. And then onto the subject of highlighter. If you do love highlighter, it's all about the color tone of the highlighter. Now you can see on this side that I have used a very, very frosty highlight that doesn't complement my skin. And the one that I've used was from Catrice, and it's called Light Infusion. And it really is an absolutely beautiful one if you've got very, very fair skin, but really doesn't suit my skin tone at all. It just sits on top of the cheekbone and doesn't really do anything. So the one that I'm going to be going in with today is an Essence one. It's called The Highlighter. The Highlighter, and this one is in the shade Sundowners. And this particular tone of highlighter is closer to my real skin tone. So it's not going to look as obvious on the skin. So just taking a light highlighting brush, that's a Real Techniques one. I'm just going to dab it into the highlighter and tap off the excess, and then I'm just going to gently sweep it on to the top of my cheekbone. And you can see that it is a very similar tone to my skin. It's just adding a little bit of sheen. Now the other thing I did on this side of my face on the eye is under the brow, I highlighted with a very shimmery, with the same highlighter. It's very shimmery, very 80s. I don't recommend a shimmery highlight under the brow bone. I don't think it's come back into fashion. So for today's tutorial, I'm going to leave the brow bone clear. But if you wanted to apply a very light matte eyeshadow, you could definitely do that, just to gently highlight the brow bone. But I wouldn't put any shimmer on there. So just a gentle bit of highlight, and that's already made a huge difference along with the blush placement. And then finally on to lips. So the big thing is to match your lip liner with your lipstick. Now on this side I have got the MAC lip liner and it's in the color Soar, and I have used the Catrice Plumping Gel lipstick. And the combination of the two actually goes very well. But what's happened on this side is that I have gone very dark with the liner. So you need to keep it light and to keep your lips light with a little bit of gloss, because that will create the illusion of fullness. So that's definitely the way to go, and just to make sure that your lip liner blends into your lips and there are no harsh lines. So taking my lip liner, I'm going to be using the edge. I'm not going to be using the very pointed tip, because that is going to give me a harsher line and a deeper color. So I'm just going to take the edge of the lip liner and just gently line my lips. So that has given me a very soft line, and if you want to soften it even further, then you can just tap it into your lips with your pinky. And that just helps to soften the line. And then finally I'm going in with a slick of my lipstick. And so guys, that is the finished look, and I hope you agree it is a huge improvement. So let me know in the comments, what are some of the things that you struggle with, that you feel are really aging your makeup look? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Ciao, ciao.